on Nowhere to Run. A two-bit crook takes police on a high-speed pursuit that turns into a life-or-death standoff. Then, a suspect terrorizes a neighborhood, and you won't believe how he gets caught. And later, two deadly carjackers think they've made the perfect heist, but these cops have other ideas. This isn't make-believe. It's real life. No recreations, no second chances. Watch as police in hot pursuit track dangerous criminals as they try to get away. See the action like never before, from the eyes in the sky to the ground below. Hear the stories, not just from the cops, but from the suspects themselves. What they were thinking. Where they were going. How they thought they could get away when there was nowhere to run. Fort Worth, Texas. A police officer pulls over a car in a convenience store car park.
You know, the center turn lane's not a passing lane.
As he prepares to write up the driver for a minor traffic infraction,
Can I see your license insurance?
the cop has no clue that an armed robbery is taking place just a few feet away. This white Lincoln belongs to the thief. Inside the store, drug addict David Rowland is a man on a mission.
This was just after September 11th. I went out with the intention of robbing somebody, and had every intention of it being, in my mind, an Arab, a Saudi Arabian. So it took me all day to find just the perfect idea of who I wanted to rob. Turns out he wasn't Arab at all. He's from India.
Rowland raids the register and gets ready to roll.
I told him to lay on the floor, and I pulled the phone out of the wall, and I walked out the door. As soon as I walked out the door, I noticed there's a police officer in the parking lot. I had somebody pulled over writing him a ticket.
Well, you passed two cars. I'm doing that.
He looked right up at me. We made eye contact. My split instinct, I wanted to step back into the store, but I thought that would look suspicious, so I walked out. Right before I got to the car, this guy come out and said he robbed me.
Who? In the white car?
That's Rowland's cue.
354, report of a robbery from this location.
The robber has a head start, but his ride is no match for the police cruiser. The thief flies over some railroad tracks, and it's all downhill from there.
When I jumped the tracks after turning left there off 287, I was going pretty fast, so I'm not sure if I cleared them or not, you know, all four wheels off, but I hit my head on the roof when I come down pretty good. By hitting those railroad tracks, it really tore up the suspension, because after that I didn't have much control of the car.
Rowland drives the battered Lincoln like a man possessed.
You know, I'm trying to get away, for real. I mean, I do not want to get caught. Adrenaline's really pumping. I think I probably couldn't have spit for a week at that moment.
Pedestrians run in fear while the maniac tears up the Texas streets.
Within minutes, I had probably 5 or 6 police cars chasing me on the freeway. The police helicopter was chasing me too.
Rowland tries all the tricks to ditch the cops. He swerves into oncoming traffic.
Oh, this is gonna hurt.
Cuts through a petrol station.
Come on, dude, let's go! Give it up!
And runs multiple red lights. But he can't shake his police pursuers.
For the first 20, 30 minutes, I was thinking there might be an opportunity I could get away. I'd say the last 5 or 10, I knew I wasn't. This was gonna end maybe bad.
Finally, the crippled car dies on the side of the road.
I come to a T, and just as I'm turning this way, they're all around me anyway. The spotlight from the helicopter's on me. They're behind me, they're in front of me, and it just dies right there in the intersection.
Officers swarm the suspect's car. One cop acts as a decoy. while his partner sneaks to the passenger side door. It almost ends then.
Police officer opened the passenger door when I was looking out the driver's window, and I had the gun in my hand the whole time. He opened the door, and just reflexively I turned like this. Well, he saw the gun and he took off. And they're all hollering and yelling at me, cussing me, telling me throw the gun out. They're about to, to shoot me, just like the movies. But I hear the shotguns, and I even tense. I'm thinking that they're about to shoot.
Surrounded by cops, Roland has nowhere to run.
Drop the weapon, get your hands in the air!
But he doesn't intend to try.
I wasn't gonna get out. I'd made up my mind. This was that was the last day. I mean, I'm not going to prison, and they ain't letting me go. So I figured only one thing was happening. They was gonna have to come get me. Now, the only one way they were gonna do that, I was armed, is them by shooting me.
Lieutenant Michael Fleming is on the scene. He knows the suspect won't go peacefully.
He reached the point of no return when he began telling the negotiators that he was going to kill himself or an officer, and started waving the gun around in a way that led them to believe that he was really going to do it this time.
It's a standoff. Roland just sits and smokes. He's not going anywhere.
The standoff was about 4 hours, but within a pretty good short amount of time, the SWAT team had showed up, and they had snipers in the business parking lot right over here and on the roof. I could see them.
Finally, firefighters come up with a daring plan to end the stalemate. Minutes later, Roland gets hosed.
The plan was that the hose team would approach from the driver's side of the vehicle, while the entry team approached from the passenger side rear and created the diversion to try to get the suspect looking towards us so he wouldn't be aware of the hose coming up on him.
The plan worked perfectly.
And then the next thing I know, the full force of a water cannon is hitting me, and I'm rolling out the passenger side door.
But it's not over yet.
I roll out like a tumbleweed. And when I roll out, I still have the gun in my hand. And I hear shots going off. To me, it sounds like shotguns. Boom, boom, boom. And I feel myself, I come up on my knees when I roll out. I feel myself getting hit in the body and in the head, and I black out.
But they weren't shotgun blasts. Officers disarm Roland with non-lethal rounds.
He still clutched one of his weapons, though, and wouldn't let it go. So our less lethal operator fired several baton rounds from a 37mm launcher at him. They had the desired effect and caused him to let go of the weapon.
A confused Roland regains consciousness.
I woke up to these officers pretty much taking their aggression out on me. They're waylaying on me pretty good, and I'm thinking, geez, I'm dying, and these guys are getting in their last legs. I honestly was thinking that. I didn't know they'd shot me with rubber bullets.
The cops collar the suspect without any further incident.
The team did an excellent job, so we were able to put handcuffs on him and take him into custody without really hurting him badly. He ended up with a broken arm and some bruises, I think.
David Roland is found guilty of aggravated robbery and is sentenced to 18 years in prison. A drug-addled gunman robbed the wrong place at the wrong time. But thanks to a lucky traffic stop, this crook scheme was all wet. Now the addict is drying out in jail.
I'm not real happy about this interview, but maybe if it helps somebody and they'll listen, and keep them from not doing the same thing. Especially, I got two young men as nephews. I'd hate for them to think this is cool, get on dope and go out and do the same thing, even if it just makes them think, well, Uncle Dave's an idiot. I am an idiot.
Coming up, he's on the run. But will his pants be his ultimate demise? And later, police tail two car thieves that are bound and determined to get away. When Nowhere to Run returns. Los Angeles, California. After officers spotted them robbing a home, a carload of bungling house burglars take off on a high-speed chase along the freeway.
off to the right shoulder. We first speeds up to 120 miles an hour. Uncertain how many people are in this vehicle. Northbound right now, passing Manchester.
And Derek Bell is the eye in the sky delivering play-by-play commentary of their treacherous flight from the law.
This pursuit took place in the early morning hours of the commute, about 8 o'clock in the morning, which is really one of the worst times to have a high-speed pursuit.
One of their rear tires is blown.
So he's really trailing some rubber there.
And with the road choked with traffic, there's nowhere to run, so they try to hide.
Looks like he's going to be getting off here. It's the first time that we've seen him get off the freeway here.
When it got onto surface streets, it got really crazy. He was weaving in and out of traffic, again, just as he was on the freeway. However, he was making really sharp turns through neighborhoods, and people were completely unaware of what was going on.
Their foolish gambit to drive their way out of this mess fails.
As is often the case in these high-speed pursuits, these people are going so fast that the tires on their cars just can't handle it. Such was the case with this guy. His tires were starting to shred. I think he knew it, and that's why he really had to dump that car.
Sure enough, they pull up lame.
Looks like he may be looking for a place to bail out. There are no patrol cars behind him right now.
And one of them leaps at the chance to head out on foot.
There it is, here it comes. Looks like he's slowing down. One person getting out right there. Went into that house.
He didn't really stop the car. He basically slowed it down to a speed that he felt he could jump out quickly enough, and that's just what he did. The car kept going, and he started running.
Okay, looks like they're slowing up again. Let me get around this.
Suddenly, two more thieving thugs scatter and start looking for cover.
Now, 2 more people getting out of that one, and then the car is continuing.
But the focus is still on the driver, and from the way he's running, surrender is not an option.
It's difficult to find out what is going through these people's heads. You know, they're obviously desperate, they're not thinking properly, and they're doing just anything they can to get away from the police. And with the media overhead, them on television, I just can't explain what might be going through their minds.
The driver dashes into an urban obstacle course of barbed wire walls, fences and roofs. But if all that isn't enough to stop him, his own baggy trousers might just do him in.
His pants were falling down because they were probably a couple sizes too large, and at one point he got him caught on a fence. Now I thought he was going to get snagged on that fence and was going to be actually arrested on that fence, but he got it off that fence and continued running.
He finally buckles down in Guillermo Rangel's front yard and unfortunately trips an alarm no criminal wants to ring.
He was scaling gates and jumping fences, so you know, they caught the attention of my dogs right away. They were barking and causing a ruckus.
And Guillermo's guard dogs don't give up without a chase of their own.
When the suspect saw my dog, he just really ran harder and really put more effort into his jolt, you know, and just proceeded to run down the street, the dog chasing him all the way.
Dogs are chasing him. Look at this.
You know, the dog distracted him from the other people he was running from. Not only was he being watched by the media, he was being chased by the police, both in the air, on the ground, by cars and motorcycles, but now he's being chased by a dog, so that certainly didn't help him any.
His energy flagging and his pants still sagging. Like a menacing Mario brother, the driver faces and amazingly overcomes one set of obstacles after another.
Look at this, walking over the tops of these walls here, between the homes. And back out into an alleyway.
But it's not long before cold, hard reality hits him like a ton of bricks.
He was running and running over the tops of houses, being chased by dogs. He was really obviously getting tired out.
We've got all sorts of units that are now converging on the area. The sheriff is giving really good locations on this person.
He truly has nowhere to run.
and it looks like he's down behind these trees here. This is a small park here. Here you can see they've got both the CHP and some LAPD units are on scene right now. That may be a sheriff's, I'm not sure. Looks like perhaps CHP. And it looks like they got this person in custody.
At one point, when he got over to the last house, turned into what would look like a small park, the police were there waiting for him. Then when he saw that wall of officers, he simply gave up and went peacefully.
The entire wild ride covered huge distances, put 3 law enforcement agencies on high alert, and kept the local audience riveted to their screens.
As it unfolded, I noticed they got off on the exit where I live, and then they turned on my block, and next thing you know, they were on the roof of my house. I was like, what is this? This is better than TiVo. This is interactive television, you know?
Unfortunately for 3 rampaging robbers who passed the point of no return on TV, the price of stardom is hard time in jail. Oakland County, Michigan. Sheriffs Lamarice Gardner and Harvey Wilson are on the lookout for a stolen car.
We heard on the radio that Oak Park had a person who was carjacked of their Dodge 2006 Hemi Charger. And when we heard that, we figured we might have a good chance of spotting that vehicle if we went on one of our main streets going northbound.
A few minutes earlier, Teen Terror's Roger Tisby and his partner Dennis Nunley jacked the Charger at gunpoint.
I walked up to the side of the car, pulled the gun out, told her to get out the car. I got in the car, and then I left.
Little did they know the suspects were heading straight for the waiting sheriffs.
They put out the description of the car. Shortly after that, within probably 30 seconds, looked up at the stop sign, which is the north end of the township. I spotted a black car that had started coming southbound on Wyoming, and I thought, well, that might be the car, and as soon as I said that, they blew right through the stop sign and took off as soon as they saw us.
But the thieves refused to give up without a fight.
I realized that the gun was still in the car, so I knew I wasn't about to pull out until I got away.
They drop the pedal to the metal and leave the deputies in their dust.
During the pursuit, I was going about 80, 90 miles per hour.
Within seconds, the sheriffs know they're in for the ride of their lives.
I believe the suspects passed the point of no return when they saw us and hit the gas. I believe they had the idea their car was going to be more powerful, given it was a Hemi Charger, and that we couldn't keep up. But my partner's driving skills and the traffic congestion slowed them down enough for us to keep up.
The Charger blows through stop signs and red lights. Then the high-speed hoodlums tear down the straight. Their reckless rampage prompts concerns from the sheriffs about the safety of innocent civilians.
Only thing you can do at that point is, especially on a violent felony like that, something where you're gonna chase them for a while, is, I mean, you hope they don't hit anybody or hope that nothing happens.
But the officers had no choice but to stay in the chase.
We had to stay in it because the suspects were a potential threat of harm to other people. We can't let people get away with doing more and more carjackings, particularly if they got weapons.
The fleeing felons pushed the mean machine to the limit and almost paid the price.
They didn't care. All they wanted to do was get away.
They weave through midday traffic, but the sheriffs stay right on their tail. Strangely enough, although this driver has broken every major traffic law, he still uses his turn signal. No matter what they do, the desperate duo can't shake the sheriffs.
They had nowhere to run. We were on them.
Then the suspects rocket down residential streets at 6 speeds.
When they got to the straightaways, they would punch the gas on the car, and they probably got up to 80, 90 miles an hour. They were flying.
The Charger gets dodgy on a turn, then recovers and pulls away. But the sheriffs know this street is about to end in a T-junction, and what the fugitives don't know can hurt them. This time, it's the carjackers who get jacked.
I knew they were coming to the T intersection. They had about a block and a half or 2 block lead on us, and I recognized they weren't going to be able to make that turn.
When the straight suddenly ends, the driver cranks the wheel, but he's going too fast. The car skids out of control and slams into a lamppost.
It was like slow motion, but it happened quick too, though. It was like the brakes stopped, and then I seen the pole, and then I hit the pole.
The suspect's world turns upside down. Incredibly, the road ragers are uninjured in the crash.
It was a blessing not to be injured the way I hit the pole. I was doing like 70 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour, and the brakes locked on the car.
It was a pretty bad crash. I thought it would have been a lot worse, especially hitting that light pole. The light pole gave way. I think that's what stopped them getting hurt a lot more than they could have.
Knowing the teens are armed and dangerous, deputies rush in with guns drawn.
I realized I had nowhere to run when I got out the car after we crashed into the pole, and there was guns everywhere.
I think it took a little bit out of them when they hit the pole. It kind of like any accident where you get that 15, 20 seconds where you're thinking what just happened, and we were able to get up on top of it.
The officers bust the young thugs for carjacking, felony firearm, and carrying a concealed weapon.
They gave me 10.5 years plus 2, so it was 12.5 years altogether, a mandatory 2 for the gun.
These minor threats were looking for a free ride. But when their high-speed hijinks took a turn for the worse, they ran out of road and ran out of luck.
You can run from the police, but you can't run from the radio.
Tom Sizemore, Dennis Hopper and Steven Seagal star in tonight's action movie at 9 o'clock. A pair of San Francisco cops, along with the help of an explosives expert, must take on a terrorist gang threatening to detonate bombs all over the city. It's Ticker. Here next, though, it's The Professionals.